All right. Hi, everybody. This is another episode, the second episode of Writer's Journey. Um, Essentially, a new podcast that Shen Gun, is starting, where I'll be interviewing different writers from all walks of life. So, last time, if you guys were watching, I interviewed my friend Nadir Hashmi, who's a Pakistani American writer who went to the Sahara Desert and is got accepted into a Seattle Writers Workshop. This time around, I'll be interviewing Blake Matthews. So I know Blake from Imprint Poetry First Friday, which for those of you who don't know, and by the way, I understand that all of you are just staring at this picture of him and the bear, uh, but we'll bring him on shortly, and then we can talk. So, in fact, I shouldn't just be introducing him. Let's just bring him on and just do that. So, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So you're not always with that bear.
No, but that's a good picture.
That is a good picture. So that's representative. So Blake, I was going to just tell your life story for you, but I really don't want to do that. So why don't you actually tell the story? Like, who are you, and how did you get into writing?
Well, once upon a time, there was a little boy that had a big imagination and big ideas. And when I was in actually the fourth grade was the first time I really wrote something creative. I actually wrote a story about the land beyond the rainbows, and it had flying lions and rainbows and leprechauns and all these lovely creatures. And that was the first time I actually wrote a short story. And then I think I was always kind of good at writing in school growing up. And then probably in about the seventh grade, the first time I met a girl that I really liked, and I wrote some poetry for her or about her, and it got posted around the middle school campus. But even at the end of high school is when it really, yep, it was actually a haiku.
A haiku, and it got posted everywhere, huh? Okay, that's wow. Okay.
Yeah, they put it up on display, and everybody was like, "We know who that's about." I'm like, I didn't say anything.
Right.
But and a little bit later, like when I was in high school, near the end of my high school career was when I really started writing poetry pretty prodigiously, and I produced my first probably 15 or 20 pieces before I graduated high school. And then it seems like after that I didn't do it for a while, and then while I was in college and maybe my second years I started picking it up again, and then I never put it down. And I mean, really, if you do the math here, I've been writing for something like 33 years.
So for you, writing has been part of your whole existence through most of your life. Was there a defining moment that you recall when you first started writing, or was that
Well,
or did you?
no, actually, the leprechaun and lion story was like elementary school. The love poem, there was a love poem in middle school, but it really kind of took off in high school. It's just something in me changed, and I started doing this all the time. And even when I got to be I think I might have been 20 or 21 when I got really into it, and I took some time away so I could go write. And I think I was writing like 9 poems a day for a while after breakup with someone. It always had to be something about someone I was seeing, right? And I broke it off with someone, and I wrote like 120 poems about it. And it was just like going over and over and over.
That's a lot.
And that was this was in a 3-month period. So 120 poems in 3 months. I was like, break up every week, man.
But apparently it increases your level of productivity for poetry, at least. So you've been writing.
Well, I mean,
well, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been writing poetry for 33 years. I've been writing a lot of other things too.
So, like so poetry. I mean, how did you? I know you through the open mic scene in Houston with First Fridays. Have you been doing performances for a while as well? or
There was a long hiatus on some of that, but yes, in the past, I've gone to a lot of different writing or poetry performances and spoken word tours and stuff like that. And it really started off probably literally. I was 20 years old. I was 20 years old going to the Mausoleum, which is now Avant Garden. And
oh yeah, I used to
I
go
would
there.
go in, and this is ages ago. This is like, it must have been 30 years ago or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, about 30 years ago. And I started going there and becoming part of what they were doing. And I continued to write and produce and put things together. But where it really sort of turned a corner was when I while I was in school as an English major with my undergraduate degree, I started taking a little bit of creative writing courses. And that's when it really sort of turned a corner, and it became stronger, and it became a little bit more poignant. And some of those sort of literary elements that you see in literature started to show up in the work. And even one guy who was the master of ceremonies, he said, "Hey Blake, have you been taking poetry classes?" And I nodded my head. He goes, "Well, it shows." And I was no longer sort of ranting and raving like some of the other children were.
Yeah. No, I mean, I never thought your poetry is ranting or raving, although some may disagree with that notion. I don't know. You can get
Yeah,
pretty
maybe, yeah.
passionate. Yeah. So your latest work, I'm just gonna go straight there, is called Skadugenga, right? Skadugenga. Did I
That's
say that right?
Shadu. Think of shadow.
Never mind.
Shadu
Here we are.
Ginga. Think of shadow. Shadu, like shadow.
Okay, all right.
Shadu Ginga.
That's actually not the picture I wanted to put up, but for some reason it keeps going there. 1 second. Okay, this
That's
one.
it.
There you
You
go.
say Shadu Ginga.
Shadugenga.
And so,
Okay.
yes.
What
And
does
the
that
reason,
mean?
okay, it's like it's my favorite word in the English language, okay? And it is English. It just happens to be Old English from Beowulf. And Shaduginga is Old English for shadow walker. And one thing about it for that title is that I had been in the service industry a long time and sort of reviewed the world by night for so many years. And I'm like, well, if you are in the industry and you work at night, then you are a shadow walker. You are a Shaduginga. But Shaduginga also insinuates that you're a shapeshifter. And Grendel was actually considered a shapeshifter in the story of Beowulf, where he's this sort of monster that comes out of the bog and goes after people. And
Mhm.
I guess it depends on how you look at it. Are you a monster, or are you just a night walker?
I don't know. What are you? What are you? Or are you
Me, I'm a
asking me?
little bit of well, it's a rhetorical question. And that some of the time I'm a day walker, some of the time I'm a night walker, and I think I'm just kind of somewhere in between the two. And that I tend to have kind of a night side where there's always something interesting going on, and it usually involves writing, you know. And there's a lot of work that I produced because really in more recent memory, like within the last year or so, I had moved back into the city from the suburbs, and I wrote a lot of stuff. I spent pretty much the whole summer writing, and by the end of it, I had a good sized body of work, and I only used a certain fraction of it when we put this book together with Mr. Chris
Right.
Wise.
What is the so is that the main character, is that like going on a journey to find a dragon? What is happening there? Or is it just
I,
a depiction?
actually, the
Like
thing about it is that I think it's interesting. There is basically a narrative arc to this book, and it is the hero's journey. And let's look at the sections here. Let me look at the sections here. There's about some subsections, and it starts out with the mythic self, goes to the initiation. Next is the fall, then the void, between anvil and hammer, reconnection, the scop, and then the mythic return. And so there's these subsections that give it this sort of narrative arc. And so this is the hero's journey. And there is actually, I think, one reason for the dragon in the cover is that the last poem of the piece is called "In the Name of the Dragon." And so really, gosh, I was really blown away that it came together so well, and that it was able to fit together because
yeah, it looks
Atomic
like
Press.
if I didn't know it, I mean, if you didn't put there a poetry collection, I would think like it's like a fantasy novel.
Right.
which I would definitely think, yeah, the hero's journey is pretty apt for that. So this collection here, I mean, it took you some time to put it together, I'm sure. What does it personally mean for you?
Well, you know what it means that after so many years, I have something under my belt to show for all the effort. It's not like I've got all these projects that nobody cares about. It's like actually, folks have started asking me along to extra projects, and I'm happy to volunteer to be part of whatever that is, no matter who it is, and no matter what it is either. It's like, well, I want to be a part of whatever's going on and kind of be a part of the writing community and have something under the belt here, but also that also kind of go around town having something to sort of peddle. And it does happen when I meet people randomly. And I'm like, well, they're like, well, what do you do? I do this and this and that. And they're like, well, what else do you do? Well, what are your hobbies? Oh, I write poetry. Oh, really? Do you have anything? Yep. It's in the car. Here we go. And then it's like, then I hold up the book and they're like, okay, sure.
That is real, right? That you have an actual book that you can show people, like right there. Yeah.
Right. And that feels great because it's just, man, it's been so long in coming. I wish I had done this longer ago, but you know what? I'm glad it's going now.
Yeah, I haven't read any of your poems, at least not in this book. Do you have one that especially resonates with you? That you want to read?
My favorite probably yes. There's one in particular that I'm really, really, really crazy about out of everything, probably, and and I really wrote it as a tribute to the place that was called the Mausoleum, because basically they wanted a sort of changing of the guard to change the number of the people coming in and kind of give the place some switch it up with another crowd of people. So they basically said, okay, all you poets got to go somewhere else, and they all basically kicked us out. But and this was sort of to honor the memory of that, and so this is one of my favorite ones. It's the second poem in the book. It's called The Mausoleum. So, right. When nightfall spreads its lengthy shades and twilight makes its faint farewell, footfalls shuffle through the glade and wander by memorial trails. Some gypsies dance in gardens long beneath the pearl of heaven's vault to meet with poets who sing their songs near earth and wind and fire and salt. This place that dwells in gardens green, with mortals laid to final rest, a morbid presence too it seems, where spirits roam beyond the flesh. This destination deep within, a mausoleum fast and firm, where families lodge with kith and kin, the reaper's triumph then confirm. The poets and gypsies then converge about this muted heavy tomb, to speak of nature's mighty scourge amidst dejected cloudy gloom. In eventide they celebrate with Dionysus witching wine, like Maenads in some twisted state, they conjure spirits from the vine. But as the eve then presses on, and embers from the flame recede, they know that they must soon be gone, and vocalize their parting creed. And often to the world they go, and break apart their brief sojourn, through hills and dales where fair winds blow, until they once again return.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay, so yeah, what does that mean for you?
Well, it was really, there was actually one time several years ago that I remember saying, if I'd have to think about what it would mean if I had to burn up everything I had and I got to keep two things, this would be one of them. And at that time, at least, that was true. And it's like, if I had to burn up everything I ever wrote, and these were the only two things you get to carry with you into the next place, then that would be one of the two. And I was really very happy with that one. And I know that a lot of our modern conventional poets do not usually use a lot of rhyme schemes unless there's something like a sonnet going on.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to define what the convention is. I mean, it just seems like whatever. Like for myself, for instance, I don't really follow any convention when it comes to writing.
Right. it reminds me kind of what happened with classical music over the years. That there used to be the ones from way back when,
Yeah.
like Tchaikovsky or Brahms or someone, and they had a totally different sound than the people now that have like different ways of interpreting music. And the same thing sort of happens with poetry, that you have people that are all these that have a classical sense of the way that it should run and operate, but but then you have the people that are actually doing something with that. You know, you have some people that will sit and talk and expound upon the way everything ought to be done, but when you start to zero in on who's actually producing something, my friend, that number shrinks significantly.
Yeah. Wait. What do you mean by that comment? Like,
what I mean is that I've known a lot of people in the past that talked about they wanted to talk about the art. Like, okay, this is literary art. They wanted to talk about the art,
right? But they don't actually produce. That's what you're saying.
But they're not doing anything. They're commenting, but they're not producing. And I'm like, look, guys, while you're over here having your conversation about what it should be, let me go and scribble over here in this corner and come up with something for you guys. Let's make an item.
I mean that's well, isn't that you can say that's true for just about anything, right? Like, in the sense that there's always more people who are consuming about something than creating, right?
True.
Like there's a lot more people who read and write or talk about writing, but then never actually do write. So, yeah.
Right. And there's some people that I've known in the past, they would say, I should write something. And I'm like, I know, it makes you sound more sophisticated when you say that, doesn't it?
You should write something, but then you never do. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is hard to write sometimes. I mean, like, even myself, you know, I want to produce more, or rather, let me rephrase that. I don't want to make it sound like I'm some kind of writing machine. I don't mean saying like I want to produce more, but I want to write more. I want to express more. But to get into that, the space where I feel like I can do so, may be a little hard. For you, like, how do you have a routine for writing, like, or do you, how does that work for you?
Sometimes what happens is that I'll go to a cafe down the street from me and sit there and make myself do something, whether I really want to or not. And it worked out really well the other day because I follow the sort of way of doing things that they taught me in poetry class ages ago, where you start some pre-writing and you start with sort of like a journal entry. And then you start to sort of underline and find some ideas that look like they might work for something, and then expand on them and do some webbing. And then after that, going, okay, well, now I've got some material. Let's start turning each one of these into a poem. And so this is what happened this sort of last time. And then it was like, okay, here's the first one. And I do, like, not kidding, I'll do 5 to 7 drafts before I reach the final. And it sings a much more beautiful song when I put that many drafts in. And by then you usually have like things like alliteration or assonance or symbolism. All these things just start to kind of, now it feels almost like they naturally fuse into the work and they layer right in, because what I'll do is I keep writing it over and over and over. And if it keeps changing, then I keep writing. Now as soon as the poem comes out the same one after the other, then I'm like, okay, now I'm finished because nothing changed. But if it keeps changing, then I keep writing and I keep changing and changing layer after layer into the work until it rings true in a literary context, until something in it really resonates that I know, okay, now I know I finally said something that's worth saying.
Okay. I see. That's really different than how I write, but you know, we each have our. But I've seen you writing with no draft revisions. Like we've gone to, like, very briefly when Bucky was holding that poetry writing little, I don't know what you call it, sharing workshop thing.
Right. Basically, it was a poetry workshop, but we were putting, Bucky put it together. We had a poetry workshop. We were all kind of doing the same thing with a writing prompt or two, and it was kind of fun while it lasted, but it only happened a few times before.
I want to get that going again, but maybe another time. That would be nice. Absolutely. So, are you working on anything these days And also, what are you
Oh
reading?
yes, and,
I gave you two big questions. What are you reading, and what are you
okay.
working on?
Well, I've actually got a collection of short stories. Okay, each year in November they have the greatest American short stories for each year, and I'm reading one of those, and they have basically a different short story in every all through. They have different short stories in the entire work, and you go through them and you get these things. It's a double submission process where they have to have been published in a magazine or a journal before they get it into this place. And it comes out every November, and I have a collection of them. And then I have a book of poetry, or I have actually several books of poetry. One of them is from the New Yorker, and it's an anthology, and that's cool. And then I've got also, even though they go way, way back, I've got an anthology of short stories as well. Um,
Okay,
and
so
those have been the primary.
what do you found this on somewhere on like
I found it at Barnes and Noble.
you found it at Barnes and Nobles? Okay,
I found,
what is that? What is
I
that
had a
first one? Oh, sorry, go
here.
ahead.
I would even go grab them so I'd quote this properly. Hang on a second. They're just in this room right here. Give me a second.
Okay, so frankly, I probably should have told Blake to prepare some books, but yeah. Let me see if I
Okay,
can.
so this one is A Century of Fiction in the New Yorker from 1925 to 2025. Look at this thing.
Wow. Okay, so you're reading 100 years of fiction.
And that's the fiction. Okay, these are all short stories, and some of them would be ones that we might have grown up on in college at 18, 19. Like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, or The Yellow Wallpaper. Some of these classic ones, but it goes all the way up into 2025. Anyway, and the same thing goes for A Century of Poetry from the New Yorker. Here, see? And this was an anthology. A particular friend of mine who is a librarian and book person for life, had shown me these things, and she would always pick out these great things, and I was always compelled to buy whatever it was that she had in mind, because it always was right on the money.
A Century of Fiction in the New Yorker, and A Century of. Okay, we're getting some commentary in the comment section. I don't know if you can see that, Blake. But maybe not.
I've got. Oh,
I'm just gonna. Yeah. Go to. It's like, okay, so Zachary Petty says iterative process for sure. Yes, writing is an iterative process. I'm just posting.
I like this one. I'm drinking a glass of wine.
Oh yeah. Love it as well. Yeah, drinking a glass of wine, loving yawn.
Think of a poem and a story is born for all the words that care not to conform. I love it.
Think of a poem and a story is born for all the words that dare not conform. I like that, actually. Good job, Zachary. I think that was a really good poem on the spot.
Bravo.
Right there. Yeah. So do you collect all your past works, even if they're not published? Like are they somewhere?
Oh yeah. Okay. This is what was so funny about putting Shadooginga together. All right, that I have this tome of poetry that's about like this. It is over 800 pages. Insane amount of stuff.
Because I was thinking, every time you have a breakup, and probably even before then, you just write a lot of poems. So you must have a lot more than what's in that book. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but there's so much material, and the thing is, I was sifting through it when Chris Wise had said, "Let's put a book together." I started going through that tome of literature, and I realized, oh my gosh, so much of this is not that good. Like, oh wait, man, that was 20 years old. Here I was sitting in a library writing a poem. Didn't like the dorm food. The girl didn't like me. My roommate was mad at me, and just the sort of complaints you have when you're between 18 and 20 years old. But what was the question? Was there another question?
Well, what do you do with all these works that you have not published? Are they residing somewhere?
Yeah, well, really, where they're residing is in my bookshelf. I've got some places with copies and stuff like that. There we go.
And I heard this, but okay. All right. So I get it. A lot of my works as well are just kind of scattered in different notebooks. But I try to actually.
Mhm.
So one of the things I'm curious what you do. So compare and contrast maybe. Do you typically write your poems by hand, or do you type
Yes.
it on the computer first?
Well, first
Okay.
I write them by hand about 5 or 7 times, and then I type them for the final draft.
Okay.
And then I also make sure that it's saved and everything like that. And then I've got to save to places that would put it in a safe zone, let's say.
All right.
So
So
yeah, I always write it by hand.
okay, you write it by. I do that as well. Typically, I write it by hand, and then I transcribe it to the computer, and then I my next step is then it either ends up uh, in a future book. So I will have a document, right? That's the future book that's going to be part of, or it's just standalone, and I just print it out, or post it on. So I use Medium. I don't know if you use Substack or Medium. Um, do you? Or Blake? No. Would you do it? Like
No.
you wouldn't? Okay.
Well, I put it on Microsoft Word, all right, and then I save that, and I'll usually save it to Google Drive or something like that.
No. Okay. Let me ask you this question. Like, do you? I know you don't have a website yet. Do you or do you plan to in the future put up I guess, a digital writing uh, profile? Like,
That would be
um,
a great thing to do. I wish I'd done that 30 years ago, man. But looking back at some of that stuff, it's like maybe this is
yeah,
a better
because
time.
like a lot of people who write regularly, they have a Substack account, or they have a Medium account, or they have some kind of blog or some kind of writing platform they utilize. Um, I mean, not saying you have to, but just curious. Okay,
Be a great idea to advertise and promote yourself. Now, I see a question here in the comments that I would like to address.
let's do that.
Where does your inspiration come from during writer's block? Okay, so I actually don't have that happen very often, but when it does, I just keep
You
writing.
don't have
And
writer's
so I'll
block?
write and write and write.
Okay.
No.
Well, all right,
I
go
mean,
on.
it happened like one time in the last year. One time, and when that happened, I was
Mhm.
writing and I was writing the same thing over again. I was like, okay, I need to try something else. Let me write a journal or something. And I just kept trying. I kept trying. I kept plugging away at it. I kept trying to get something in writing, and it wasn't. I mean, it was the closest thing to writer's block because I just something stopped. Like, and I was like, why do I feel like I'm at a dead end here? And there was another time actually. I was doing some work at the Houston Public Library, and I started to feel like I didn't have anything to write about sitting there. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? And while I was trying to figure out what to do, I was very much interrupted by people from the homeless community downtown that were making a lot of racket in the library. And so what I ended up doing was writing poetry about the homeless situation here. And so I was like, oh, well, now I actually have something to write about. It might have set me off like a firecracker, but now I have material because of what is going on.
Huh. Yeah. That's interesting. So you could be inspired by really anything that is happening around you. That's what you're saying. So
Yes, I mean, it's just what's around me. Most of the time, it's what's around me. And I try to dial into the community around me and see where everybody is and then try to expound on what's happening. I mean, I even have one that I'll be working on probably this week or this weekend. It involves a certain band that I was able to see the other day called Fern and Rocket. It's a female-led punk rock band here that's local, and they usually play over on the East End. And I had seen them at the Natsuo's 30th anniversary party a while back, and then I got to see them again over at the Orange Show, and they had all these different performances happening, and Fern and Rocket was the headliner.
okay. Interesting. Um
Pretty cool.
yeah, that is pretty cool. Like, okay, this is hilarious. I don't know if you see how. Okay, so
I see that.
So you just inspired a poem in me, and then Zachary says, "I'm literally writing poems based on y'all's conversations right now." Well, that's great. I mean, I wonder
mean, if
what
I could,
poem that would turn out to be. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what? Also, I mean, if you see this as your temple of wisdom, then thank you. You know.
I
But I
mean,
think
for
that's one of the
sure.
other things is to encourage other people to follow suit and to, you know, get them interested in something that you're doing or get them interested in something that they see and everybody kind of respond to it in some regard.
What are you? Okay, so I think you answered the previous questions I asked a little while back about what you're reading, which are two huge anthologies for poetry and fiction over a century. Um, what are you currently writing? Like, is there
Okay,
another
well,
poem?
actually, I have so I'm still working on the poems for the next session of First Friday. I just finished the first one a while back and I started in on the second one. But I've got 3 separate poems that I'm going to do, and they're going to each of them see several drafts. Now, the goal I'm trying to set for myself to give myself the right discipline is to write on the 3 poems each month and then write a short story. So 3 poems and a short story. And then work on my 3rd novel a little bit more and just keep everything going. If I can basically do 5 things a month, I think that would be great.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so 3 poems, a short story, and a.
Well, it's actually the novel is finished. The 3rd novel is finished. I'm in the 5th draft, but work on the draft of the novel too.
5th draft of the novel. So you're working. I think you just said your 3rd novel. Is that right? Did I hear that
The
correctly?
5th draft of my 3rd novel. Yes.
What's the first 2, and where can I find those?
I
Because you're like,
love this question.
I'm surprised because
Okay,
it's like, oh, you have a poetry book out, but where's your 2 novels? Like, where's that?
Okay.
What are
The
they?
first
What are
novel
they
was
about?
more. Okay, this is a fun question, okay, because it's a loaded question for me. All right.
Okay.
The first novel I
Wasn't
wrote-
expecting that. Sure. Go on.
The first
Yeah, I wanna hear
the first novel I wrote, I think it was when I was about 30 years old, and I was starting to work on a novel, and I just started adding page after page after page after page until it was 864 pages, handwritten on college ruled paper. Insane. I think about gave myself arthritis doing it. And I literally built my entire lifestyle around my writing. And for about 2.5 years, I worked on the first draft, but it was so large and so humongous. It was really more like a first series than it was a first book. It was like a series because it was as big as 5 books. Like I could have broken that into 5 books and made a series out of it, but I kept like shrinking it, polishing it, self-editing.
What is this novel about?
A bad teenager.
Is this too much to ask you what the characters are or the plot is about or
Okay.
like?
I mean, the first thing I have to start by saying nobody in New York City or anywhere else was interested. I kept getting shot down at every turn until I finally realized there was no sense in pursuing it. But so the short sort of basic premise, I mean, this gets really controversial and it doesn't really sound like a 13-year-old, but what really happens there is you've got this kid growing up in Houston in the early 90s. Ha ha, yes, it's autobiographical on some level.
Okay.
And the thing that happens is that he comes from a family that he and the girl that he knows from down the street come from families so conservative that they don't teach them anything about sexuality, about sex, about love, about biology, anything. And so they're like, well, I don't know what this is, but let's do it. This feels good. And so the 13-year-old young boy gets the 13-year-old girl pregnant at 13. It's like, what the heck are you going to do? I mean,
you wrote this when you were 13, right?
No, I wrote this when I was 30.
Oh, you wrote this when you okay, sorry. Go on. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, didn't catch that.
Okay, now I'm going to look at myself.
So he gets her pregnant at the age of 13. And
that okay.
No, go on.
And so from there, he and his friends are like, well, hey man, do you want to be grounded till you're 25? Let's do something about this. And so they start looking for a way to sell some drugs to pay for the abortion.
Okay. All right.
And it
And
wasn't good. It sucked, man.
this is like a,
And I had what?
it'd be a story I would read. I mean, just knowing who you are, since you're quite the character.
Yeah, but I could
Um,
not get any
did you
traction, man.
try
I
to get
tried
some
so many
publishers
different.
to publish this, and nobody was interested?
After about
Yeah.
50 or so tries, I think I kind of threw my cards on the table. And the worst was the 50th thing was an actual rejection. It said, "This sounds interesting. Please send me the first 3 pages." I was like, ding, ding, ding. Okay, here's your golden moment. And I get a 1 sentence rejection back that says, "Not engaging enough." I was like, okay, I quit, man. I'm not doing any more of this. I'm not going to keep going down this road. And the thing was, the beta readers, I had 7 different beta readers, people reading my book to give me advice or ideas about things, and nobody liked it. I was like, okay, these are people who know me well, people that I picked for different reasons, and everybody thinks this book is terrible.
Do
And
you still
sometime,
have it, right?
oh yeah, of course, I would never throw something like that out, even if it isn't something I'm very proud of at all.
Indeed, so true. So that was your first novel. May I ask what your second novel was about, and what happened to that?
It is called. It is called the. It is
Hey, you're
called
getting a lot
the
of
Bartender's
compliments,
Diaries. I see that.
Lauren. Yeah, you. So, all right, let's hear it. So, second novel, what is that about? Not quite as dark.
Well, there is some darkness to it, but it's called the Bartender's Diaries. And it's about working in the bar industry. And I mean, one of my jobs when I was working on the first novel, I was also a bouncer. And I'm not kidding. This is not going to reflect well on me either, but it is what it is. I used to be a bouncer, and when someone misbehaved in the bars, I would grab them in a chokehold, open the door with their face, and throw them in the lot and say, "Don't come back." And I did this to a lot of people, and that was my job.
If that was your job to like basically throw people out of bars, I mean, that's expected. So, but
Yep.
that the novel though you're writing, was that related?
You know
To-
what? This is what happened. While I was writing the first one, I was a bouncer. The second one started happening during the first one because I was writing in the manager's journal at the end of the night to keep the heat off of the bartenders and write about what actually happened every night of the bar. And I looked at it, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, Blake, this looks like a lot like a book. Do you think about doing that?" I'm like, you know what? Good idea. And then I stole the books, Xeroxed them, and then put them back. And I have 5 years of stories in my sort of. I have 5 years of stories that I Xeroxed that I still have now, and I did work on it some. The only problem I had with it as a story, more than anything, was that it was there was not a continuous. You have to have something more complicated than people being ridiculous. There has to be something to give the story some continuity, maybe a romance that happens, and or something that gives it a complicated version of a story. You can't just have people getting randomly drunk in bars. There is really nothing to that. You go like this, and you go like this. You go like this, you go like this, or you go like this, and you go like this. You have to do something to make this more complicated than drunk people. That's it.
So the story that you're saying, the story you wrote, it was very much a plot where people get drunk in a bar and then you just throw them out and then it just repeats.
Well, not always. I mean, every situation was slightly different, and parts of it were good. I think that if I like it, it's a fun story, okay, but I like my third novel better.
Understood. So the second novel, did you? I'm sure you have all the pages stacked up as well somewhere. Did you go around trying to get a publisher for that as well?
Actually, what I did with that one was that I got it on dictation, and I still have the files for it, but I got it on dictation, and it was kind of fun. And I was actually on my friend's. You'll get a kick out of this. I was on my friend's ship when we were doing it. He used to own a ship known as Lord Byron's Revenge, and it had 16th century style masting. in a
That
steel
sounds really
hull.
yeah.
Well, we were docked and we were just doing this and we were just trying to have a project for a few nights and it went great. And we did this all in 3 nights and it was fun. It was cool. It was interesting. But anyway, I didn't really, after a certain point, I didn't pursue it as much because I was like, okay, but what about the texture that you have to make good fiction? Where is the rest of the story? There's something missing here. What is it? And I could never seem to get to the heart of what that was.
So I see. And I get it. At a certain point, you've realized, hey, maybe this is not the novel you want published. The third novel now that you're working on.
Mm-hmm. I love that book. That's
how did that start, and where are you in its current status?
Okay. How did it start? Actually, it started with not really a bet, but a challenge from a good friend of mine. And he still lives, and he's been living and still lives up in Maine. And he called me up right after the outbreak of COVID. He said, look, man, we're all going to sit here getting stir crazy. He said, I have a proposition for you. I will write my first book if you will write your third. And I said, you know what? Yes. He said, okay, 400 words a day. That's a page and a quarter, double space type, 12-point font. A page and a quarter a day until it's finished. And if you miss 2 days, you owe 800 words on the second day. If you miss 4 days, you owe 4, 8, 12, 1600 on
1600.
1600. And so what we did was we pressured each other. We held each other accountable. Hey, man, did you write today? No, I didn't get to. Well, what's wrong with you? Is something wrong with you? Are you sick? What's going on? And we just bothered each other until he had a completed work and I had a completed work. And it was fun and it was cool. And I developed a small Viking library of all the books that talk about the histories of the Vikings, the legends, the tales, the gods, the goddesses, the heroes, the warriors. What a great time. It was my first shot at historical fiction. And I really had fun with it too. And it really got almost like into magical realism, even though it wouldn't be counted in that regard. I tried to put some fairy tale elements in there too without sounding too hokey or too campy. But actually, I mean,
right. So you started this from a bet, but it became something much bigger than a bet.
Like yes, and you know what? We both finished our work within 8 months.
Right. So your third novel, are you done with it?
I'm in the 5th draft. Basically in the 5th draft or the 4th stage of revisions.
Got it.
And so I've got some work to do on it yet, because actually I have this incredible character that shows up halfway through the novel randomly, and she has to be placed on the earlier part of the novel all the way through it so that she doesn't just go, oh, hi, here's me. I'm like, no. She's got to show up earlier and make a presence and be part of the story earlier in the book. So I'm just in the process right now of putting her in there and going through the pages for.
And this is contemporary with some magical realism thrown in?
No, I just make the fairy tale seem real, like this is historical fiction. So there's at one point where it's a very Rapunzel story where at one point where the Vikings go into, they go further inland from the coast and they kidnap a princess from a tower, kind of like Rapunzel, let down your long hair. And they go to this place. It's a Roman fort that was built by a fort built by the Romans, converted into a living structure. And they get the princess to come down with them. So they hold her for ransom and kidnap her to a different part of the Heptarchies.
Wow. Okay. So who's the main character? The
Raynor, the name of the work is Raynor the Dane, and Jarl Raynor is the main character. One of the secondary characters is the quartermaster named Skard, who is also a poet. So he's a poet and he is a very controversial character. He's a quartermaster. He keeps an eye on all the things. And are
you throwing some poetry in there then?
Yes, there's a bunch of stuff that I got out of Viking poetry, and I started fusing that into the work a little bit too. Now I didn't write that originally, but it starts off with some of the different lays that the poets go into from the Viking era. Yes, and so there's some of it. They'll go by a campfire, they'll be on horseback, or they'll be on the ship, and the poets start singing. So it's, that's cool.
You know, your novel's not even out, and one of our viewers, Ashley, is saying she would read that. I would read it. So
It's fun. This was a fun book to write. And man, you know what? I was going over it a while back, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot just how damn good this thing was. This was fun to write. If I love it this much, maybe someone else will feel the same way.
Well, don't you? I mean, this. I feel like this is how it should be, right? Like the writer should not be dreading the writing.
Yes.
Like you should actually enjoy your own work, like, or like who if you're not enjoying a piece of work that you've written, why would you expect anybody else to like it? So,
right.
Yeah. So
I mean, and I really enjoyed writing it too. And it had been long enough since I had picked it up again that I had forgotten how much I enjoyed it, like how great that was. And I was like, oh man, this is just fun to read, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've written something that long that was, to me, as good as it was or held that kind of power for me. You know?
Did you have to do a lot of research into the history?
Well, I already knew a lot because of my English lit background, but I have read a lot of books on Vikings in the past anyways. And I also, because all the libraries were closed at the time of COVID, that I ordered a bunch of books and had them sent to the house. And I have like a Viking library now, ironically, since they didn't have a written lexicon, right? But I have a Viking library with all the material.
You have a Viking library.
Yep.
Like the library of books about Vikings.
Yep, I sure do. And it talks about their ships. It talks about their conquest. It talks about hang on a second. I want to say something here to these guys.
You could say Lauren apparently loves your poetry book with the title, which I still don't know how to say, but okay.
I'm trying to find a way to. Do I have to connect to YouTube now or what?
No, just go to comments on the right side. Do you see that? Yeah. Or do you not see that?
Okay, let's see. Comments.
Yep, and you can just type it there.
Okay.
The intense look you have.
I'm trying to join the chat, but anyway, so where were we? What was your last question, sir?
I don't think I had a last question, but I do.
Oh, well, I was just talking about the Viking library, but I've got all these different things about the Vikings, whether it's historical, whether it's an archaeological dig, you know, something that tells a story from the artifacts they've collected over time, what's going on with the legends and the storytelling, what some of the what's called the lays, the different poems written about the Vikings that seem to have survived through Icelandic sagas, stuff like that. And it gives me all this material to work with and all this stuff. And I've really tried to fuse a lot of that into the work.
Icelandic sagas.
Wow. Icelandic sagas, yes. And see because the Viking works that we know now survived in Iceland because the monks wrote it down. After Vikingdom was Christianized, the monks wrote about the Vikings, and they were able to chronicle some of the stuff and save it from total oblivion because a lot of people didn't do that.
Yes, no, that makes sense. We have to be thankful for the monks that recorded it all down. Do you have a time frame of when you expect to finish drafting for this next book?
This is the 5th draft, and it's gone pretty well. It's not going to take this long. I don't think it's going to be all that long. I'm not going to wait a year. I'm not going to wait 2 years. I'm not going to wait even probably that many months.
You already have a book out, so I would presume that it wouldn't. I mean, you already have this momentum going. Like you had your first book out like last December, right? So the second one, you basically have it ready to go.
Just about, and actually this time I've already picked out the people I'm sending it to first, and they're in Canada. And this is great because they accept adventure stories, they accept simultaneous submissions, and they accept unsolicited manuscripts for these types of stories, and it would be perfect. Now, I know you're probably not going to get it in the first try, but this is a little bit more targeted, and I'm a lot more pleased with my work than I was when when I wanted to say, I know my book is good, like with the first one, I know my book is good. It's just that nobody cares. It's like, well, there's a reason for that, buddy. You're not there yet, right?
Do you feel like you might be even your first book, your first novel, and maybe even your second novel that you eventually want to publish those, despite your
if I got them into the right form and did the right things to them, I mean, my storytelling has definitely improved since I started those projects. Because if you look at it, the first book I was writing that 30 years, or 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was working on that first book. My writing has gone by leaps and bounds since then.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. So what are yeah, this is really definitely very exciting for sure. So you're working on
Yeah.
on 3 poems a month, a short story, and editing your upcoming
In
novel.
stages of revision for the third novel. Yes, that's my ultimate goal of everything I can do in a 1 month period. Like everything I do to burn that midnight oil, to stay up late, to get the stuff written and ready.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Have we exhausted the questions you're willing to answer?
Do you have something totally different now? Are you now ready for something completely different?
No, I mean, I think I think we, this is going on for almost an hour. So I feel like I've asked the questions I want to ask. If the audience has any other questions, since there's a few people for sure watching, and so I don't know. I don't know what that was referring to. A few minutes ago, I said something important, I guess.
Okay.
I'm sure some of these people, Blake, you may know. So
yes, these are people on my side of the mountain. Let's just say that.
on your side
I'm
of the
just trying to find a way. It will not let me. It will not let me join the chat, man.
that is wild. I have to see what it looks
It's
like.
not you. I think it has something to do with my.
Okay, that's fine. So if Blake is not answering, it's not because he does not want to. He's obviously vocalizing that he's wanting to reply. So
Right. Okay. Let me reply to this last question by Miss Lauren Lusk. Says, how do you have time to write so much and edit your work? Well, I burn the midnight oil. What I do is I get home from work. Sometimes I'll have a little coffee and a bite to eat. And at some point, it's the second shift. The second shift of my day is writing. And if I stay up a little late into the night doing it, I don't mind making that sacrifice for something I love to do, because I don't feel like the universe is right until I've written something, period, each day.
That's beautiful. And Ashley says, let's have a beer to the monks. Fair enough.
Let's have a beer to the monks. Let's have some more.
I actually do have a question for you in terms of, since the why, this is one of the questions I've asked like number of people. It's like, so for you, writing is like comes from the heart, right? Like it's like your passion. If you don't write, you literally just said it. If you don't write, then you haven't really completed the day.
I'm not living my purpose in life, man. Yeah, exactly. Amen.
So like, have you ever imagined yourself doing that like full-fledged?
Absolutely. There was a time in my life. Let me talk about this ground zero, man. This is a tough story, but when I was briefly a high school teacher, and when I got out of teaching after one very difficult and tumultuous year in a high school teaching 10th grade, I didn't want to be a teacher again, and literally ran out of money. And it's like living in the basement. And what I really did was I just went to a Starbucks over on West Gray and started writing all the time. And I'm talking about, I produced so much work. At the end of each week, I'd have a stack of papers that I wrote. I would have several poems I wrote. I'd have a short story I was working on. I was doing this full time, and eventually I had to go get a job so I'd have enough money to live. But man, I was buying some time, and it was going great. It's like, man, I was really ready for it. And it really was something that just resonated. Like, it was like uttering a magic spell after this great catastrophe, and it worked, man.
Yeah. Okay. That's definitely very powerful. And you literally threw yourself completely into writing, because
Yep.
but then I guess eventually you had to face some financial realities.
Yeah, financial realities, just making enough money to get by. But even by then, what I would do is I would have the nights of the week I had to work, and I had roommates, so my bills were low, really low. And what I would do is on my nights off, I would work from the silence in my house from 11 to 6 a.m. And I do that at least 3 or 4 times a week. So I would write 8, 16, 24, up to 8, 16, 24, about 32 hours a week in my room writing the first novel.
32 hours a week writing on top of
my job, which was as a bouncer, which did not mentally tax me, man. And I just went until I had this tome of literature.
Wow, that's really impressive.
And I mean, it was like, I threw myself all the way in. And then a little bit later, people started saying, well, if you can do this, why don't you do that? If you do that, let's do this instead. I was like, okay. So I did join that rock band. I did write lyrics for a heavy metal band for a little while, but I also kept writing. And it was like, oh, look, this one wants to come over and practice some things. Okay, come on down. Oh, this one wants to work on a film project. Let me work on that script for you. Come over here. And before I knew it, it was like the creation station, man. I was doing like 6 different things at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I want to do it again, man. And now I'm a little bit older and a little bit wiser.
Yeah. I guess at a certain point you understand what you could handle.
Yep.
In a time frame of things. All right. We're gonna wrap this up. I feel like I've asked you, the questions ranging from the mundane to the profound, hopefully.
Yes.
So, and thank you to our audience members, viewers currently, who have put up some, very interesting questions and complimentary comments. And apparently anyone's welcome. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And all right. Just putting up a few other ones. So yeah, with all that said, definitely you guys can catch Blake. If you live in Houston, you can for sure catch him at Imprint on First Fridays. At least I know that for sure. I'm sure he goes to some other ones too. And his Instagram is W Blake Matthews. Been scrolling in the bottom for a little while. And his latest work, in case you guys for some reason didn't catch it, is on Amazon, and you can check it out with how do you say that again? The title?
Sheduginga.
Okay, see, nobody would know how to actually what's the word, spell that at all, but you can.
I know, maybe.
You can definitely look it up though. So
and good luck on that too. It's kind of a hard one to track down. Why did you have to do it that way? I wanted to differentiate, right?
So that's here. Let me see if I can get that. Yeah, there you go. Sheduginga for anybody out there.
Sheduginga.
With the 2 AEs that are together. That's the word. Sheduginga. So yeah, if you look this up on Amazon, you will find it. Oh wait, did I say it? I probably spelled it right. Yeah, SCA. Okay. So, all right, everyone.
That will work. That will do the trick.
Yeah, just find it, and you notice it by the guy with a dragon in the background carrying a sword, going off on an epic journey.
And an easier way to find the book is to type in W Blake Matthews, and then you don't have to try to spell that crazy word.
Yep, that can work too. So, all right.
Well, I want to thank all the viewers and listeners for coming in. Thank you, Shen, for inviting me onto the show. I really enjoyed this very much. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, because it's like half the battle is being able to hold a great conversation about the stuff,
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're very interesting and knowledgeable, and also very entertaining. So, I still gotta, and I know you have quite a few talents besides writing. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for telling us about all your works in the past, present, and upcoming future. So, all right.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Mhm.
Bye.